Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel and happy fall. It is officially October, which means this mummy has a bit of Halloween sewing to do. And today we're going to be diving right into costumes for my eldest son. He requested to be a Jedi this year, and I am very, very excited to get going on this project. Now, I did not have a Jedi costume pattern available, so I did go online and I went on a hunt to get something, and I found something on Etsy. It is a PDF pattern from Julie Chantal Designs. We can see here it comes with the tunic, the cummerbund, the belt, and the robe. And I did purchase this in the adult sizing, in the extra small through 5XL, because I intend on using this pattern not only for my son, but also for my husband, because they decided they did want to be Jedi together. My husband has a robe already. He just needs a tunic, and so I'll be using the pattern from this for his tunic. My son has a tunic that he picked up as his special item at Disneyland this last year. And so what he needs is the robe. So we will be making him a robe and boot covers and a quick pair of trousers to go underneath his tunic to complete his Jedi look. Now for today's video, we are going to be focusing on his robe, which I have this beautiful brown fabric for. It is a herringbone pattern. It's nice and fuzzy and warm and fleecy, and it's going to be delightfully warm for him while he is trick-or-treating this year, even if we do get snow. But because I am starting with an adult pattern, I did already get the pieces put together, and I did get a mock-up made. Now this mock-up, it's an easy peasy one. It's just out of an old bed sheet that a friend of mine brought over for me. And I've got to send a big thank you out to her, to Miss Tirza, because she knows not to throw away old sheets. She knows they can always be put to good use by a sewist, a home sewist, when needing to make mock-ups. So we've got it, and I did go ahead and measure my son's measurement before I started from shoulder to floor, and I cut the paper patterns at that. And then I quickly stitched it together and put it on him and began marking with pins where the alterations needed to be for this costume. So we do need to bring it up in the armpit for him. The sleeves are a little bit wide because they're made for an adult. They're also a little bit full for a person his size. So we're going to narrow the sleeves a little bit as well. And then the final alteration that he needed is through the neck, because an adult's neckline is larger than a child's neckline. We are going to be pinching some of the fabric out of the back of that and down through the back of the robe. I have taken these and I have put them into the paper patterns, translated them there, marked them on the patterns, and removed the excess in those areas so that we can go ahead today and just get started on pinning and stitching this Jedi robe together. As we go along, I will point out a few things with this pattern that are a little bit different than how I would normally put things together. They are in the instructions from Julie Chantal, and I think they are really great instructions, and so I'd like to bring you guys along on the journey with that and show you how some garment construction can be made a little bit different, and how sometimes those differences can really make things easier for newer sewists at home. So let's dive right in, guys, and get stitching on this Jedi costume. All right, my dears, I have all of the pieces of our robe cut out. This pattern comes in 4 pieces: a front panel, back panel, arms, and the hood. So pretty simple, just have the 4 pieces. Now the front and back obviously come in 2 parts, as well as the sleeves. The hood is cut on a fold at the top, so you're going to have a nice seamless area in the front, which I really did like about the design of this particular cloak. I think the costume designer, pattern designer for this did a marvelous job. So let's talk about construction and how we're going to be putting this pattern together, and the differences of how this pattern maker has chosen to put this together versus how I've been taught in the past. Now, I have our front and back panel pieces here. Very standard, very straightforward. We've got our neckline here, our shoulder, our arm, and then it translates down into the bottom of the robe. Traditionally speaking, the way I would have put a pattern together is to put the pieces or the panels of the robe together all along this bottom area, then connect the shoulder pieces, and then put the sleeve into place. When I was in college and we were working in the costume shop, they called it the tube in a hole method. And that's exactly what it is. You create a tube for your sleeve, and then you're fitting that into the hole of the arm's eye socket. Now this pattern maker has us connecting the shoulder seams first, and then connecting the sleeves, and then finally doing one long stitch from under the arm into the armpit and down the side of the robe. I really like this construction method. Now this is the same method we've used in other patterns for a sports sleeve inset with those large triangle set sleeves. This is a little different because it is not that triangular shaped sleeve. It is a standard sleeve, but we're going to be doing the inset across the top and then doing that long stitch on the bottom. And the reason I like it for this pattern is I think it is going to make alterations in the armpit area or the bottom of the sleeve area so much easier. You're not contending with having basically a completed robe that then you're trying to fit a sleeve into, then do a try-on fit, then unpick the sleeve, take it back out, make any alterations, and then try to stuff it back in and fix and hold up the gap. Instead, it's giving you that opportunity to just have that one area that can be altered. And depending on how you do things and whether or not you need any alterations to that, you may not even have to unpick that seam. You may be able to simply stitch in further to take things up and then carefully remove the excess fabric from the inside of the robe. I really think this is a brilliant design. I also think it's great because it can allow you to really finish up the seams at the shoulders and around the arm's eye sockets in a really nice way, so that if for some reason the robe were to come open and you were to see any of those inside seams, they could be finished to a really high standard without it being a really large pain in the neck. So I am going to go ahead and use the pattern designer's suggestions on how to put the garment together. We're going to start out with our shoulder seams, and then we're going to start trying to fit our sleeves in from there. Let's get stitching, guys. All right, my dears, we have moved into the floor in our family room just so I could spread this robe completely out. So here is our back of our robe, the neck here, and the 2 front panels. We now have our sleeves here to inset into these arm's eye here. Now I did reduce these sleeves already, and I reset the bell curve of the sleeve here, which you can see, and that is the portion that's going to need to be set up here. I am going to line up the center of the sleeve with the shoulder seam here, and then work the stitches down into it. Okay, my dears, here we are with the sleeves attached. So you can see these back 2 panels have been stitched together, the shoulder seams stitched together, and the shoulder seams pressed back toward the back panel. And then we went ahead and inset these sleeves. And now, as predicted, this area here, the slope is a little bit deep. However, again, because this was originally the size for an extra small adult, I don't really have concern about gently sloping out this area to remove that extra. I don't think it's going to negatively impact the overall fit of the robe or decrease the width of it too dramatically. I do think I will attempt to maintain the width at the bottom of the robe here and here, and just gently take this corner out, kind of straightening the line here. And then once we have done that, we can fold the robe back over and create that long stitch line here. So what that is going to look like is, what we will do is we will pick these up at the shoulders, give it a good shake. Let me see if I can set this back up for you guys to see. All right, so what we'll do is we will have, hopefully I'm still in frame for you all. We will have our robe put together here. This is our robe inside out, which is perfect. That's how we would stitch it. Right sides together. And what we will do, crawling around on the floor here, is line up the armpit seams here, line up the sleeve here, and now we can do this long seam coming in here to the point and then coming straight down on both sides, and that's going to effectively close up this sleeve and close up the side panel of the robe. All right, my dears, we have the base of the robe put together, the front panels, back panels, and the sleeves completely inset. I did go ahead and go along all of the edges with the serger because this material was fraying a little bit and I didn't really want to lose any length because of that. This is also a really lovely thick material, so it held up very, very well to the serger, and I think that's a nice finish that makes doing the final hems much, much easier. But before we get too carried away with final hems, we do need to add our hood. So this is the hood piece that we have. You can see it's kind of a funny shape, but here's the brilliant part. This is actually the top of the hood, and this was cut on a fold. So this is the front that goes around the face. Here we've got the back of the head, and then this comes down to the neck. And then this, you can see it comes up higher in the back. This is going to cover the back of the nape of the neck and come down nicely along the front to create a nice drape. So I hadn't actually seen this style of hood prior to buying this pattern, but I really liked how it came out in the mock-up that I did. So to start, I am going to go ahead and seam up the back. So I'm going to flip my hood inside out, get my right sides together, and then the beauty on this is I only have this back crown to close up before I can attach it to the top of our robe. And because the top was done on a fold, it just lays really, really nicely around the head and shapes and frames the face really nicely. And now before I move forward, I am going to go ahead and hit this seam with the serger. I think I'm also going to hit this front edge with the serger as well, but I am not going to do the part that lines the neck of the robe because I'm going to fold that over and stitch that down by hand so it looks really crisp and really clean when we have that final look. Because when we pull the hood back, the neck will lay open inevitably and you will see that seam when the robe is open. So we want it to look really clean and really nice, but I am going to hit the rest of this with the serger and make sure that we aren't getting any fraying around those edges. Our hood put together. You can see how it's going to go up and around. Oh, lovely. Okay, now let's get this put into the top of our robe. The nice part here is that we can just line up our back seams, and we're going to gently work the curve of this hood into the shoulder slope of the top neck opening of the robe. So I am going to pin. I'm going to use a ton of pins because this is not just a straight or even a gentle curve, it's kind of doing this. So you definitely want to make sure it's nice and firmly in place. All right, my dears, we have got a fabulous Jedi robe done, ready to go. And I just felt like we can't do the reveal of a Jedi costume without the full thing. We have to go for it. So we are not going to stop at the robe with this video. We're going to go ahead and plow through for my little one. The next thing we need are boot covers. I bought this pattern from the Laughing Moon Mercantile a few years ago. I was very excited I was going to use it for a Halloween costume for myself, and unfortunately I never got around to doing it. Time got away from me. So you can see here the patterns that they print out are really fabulous, has really great instructions, tells you exactly what you're going to need. They also have all of the assembly instructions here to let you know how each of the pieces go together. I did already cut all of these out, and I made a mock-up for my kiddo already. You can see it here. I went ahead and made a few little alterations, shortened the bottom of the boot, shortened where the calf of the boot is going to be. And with this one, it fit, but it fit really perfectly. So the other thing I'm going to do is make the seam allowance a little bit less than I had made it for this one. Otherwise, this one is ready to go. Now, the other great thing that happened with this pattern when I bought it is I bought the pleather. So we are ready to go without having to run to the store for any more supplies. We've already got the fake leather to make these boot covers with. It is like kind of a muddled brown, different tones of brown weaving through it, so a nice natural look, and I think that's going to be perfect. You can see all of the individual pieces laid out here. It's a total of 5 pieces for these boot covers. When I made the mock-up, it actually went together really easily. I was a little bit intimidated by it at first. Seeing how these went together was a little confusing to my brain for a minute, but it actually does go together very nicely. So I'm going to get to cutting this out, and then we will get to stitching these boot covers together. All right, my dears, we are back. We did finish our boot covers, and I think they're pretty good. And they're not perfect, I'm not gonna lie, but I actually think they turned out pretty smashing considering I hadn't tried this pattern before. I'd done kind of the really quick mock-up, but it had been out of a different material. And so this was quite a bit more firm than the cloth, and so it did actually wear differently on my kiddo's leg, and so this did take a little bit more adjusting. I did trim them down quite a bit, but I think we've got it. We've got here something that's going to definitely work and be really great Jedi boots. So the last thing that I need to do is make a quick pair of trousers, and I was going to make just a very straight pair of trousers, kind of tapered in at the ankle because he is going to be wearing the boots. And unfortunately, the material that I have, which is just this natural kind of muslin, I just wasn't sure if it was going to be super comfortable in a tighter, straighter fit pant, because it's really hard to jump around and do cool Jedi moves when your pants are too tight. So I thought, what the heck, I will just start out with a basic trouser pattern, and we can kind of make some modifications from there. We can maybe make the waist a little bit bigger and then use a drawstring elastic waist and give him just a little bit more room. So I broke out a pattern that I picked up on sale for $1.99 at Joann's, I think 2 years ago, and pulled the pattern out, got the pants pattern portion out, and realized that A, it only goes up to size 8, and I definitely need a 10, 12, and B, it says that it's specifically for jersey knit material, not woven material. So this is actually probably going to be a little bit smaller than what you would need for a woven material pattern. But never fear. What I really needed from this was a good crotch seam for a kiddo, because the crotch seam that I have is for adults. So handy dandy tracing paper, and I traced out their largest size and then made an accommodation, bringing the crotch seam slightly lower for the larger size. Cut that out. And so I have this to go on top of our material. And here is my thought. After second guessing myself and hesitating, I went online and I did find some pants online. They're called harem pants, and they have a flat banded waist and then a gathered material at just below the waistline. So you have your pants material here. You're maintaining the standard crotch seam, but drawing this line out further and then coming back in toward the ankle so that the waistband can be gathered up into the flat waistband like yoga pants. And I thought, this might work. This could work even with the muslin material, because it's just going to make them kind of big and blousy and baggy, but yet they'll have a nicely fitted waist that isn't bulky underneath his shirt. So we're going to give it a try. I did go ahead and already trimmed off the waistband of this pant pattern that I had. I had it coming up here, and I've trimmed that off so that I'll maintain that width. Then we'll cut a little bit further, like I was saying, then make that diagonal in toward the ankle so that the legs aren't super, super wide. And we're going to make these pants. And I think they're going to be great, because I think not only are they going to work for amazing Jedi pants, they might work for pirate pants too. And it's always good to have a costume that's 2 for 1. So let's go ahead and get this cut out of this muslin material and start stitching up these pants. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today and coming along on the journey of making a Jedi robe for my eldest. I had a great time working through this pattern this week from Julie Chantal. I think the pattern was done really beautifully. It came together much easier than I expected it to, and the end result was really, really fantastic. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. I have a little who thinks so too. And I certainly hope you guys think so as well. I cannot recommend this pattern maker enough, and I will leave links in the description below for her Etsy page, because I think she did a phenomenal job. Her instructions are on point, and her PDF pattern printed just absolutely perfectly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys like these types of costume videos, please leave me a note in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I really love doing costume videos for my kiddos as well. And next week we will be back again with a vintage pattern. this time with a bit of a spooky flair for myself. So if you like vintage videos, vintage patterns, and if you like costuming videos, please hit that like and subscribe button. I would love to have you guys along on my journey with me here. Thank you guys so much. Bye.